Greetings, beautiful ones. Hi, friends, soul family, beautiful beings in brilliant bodies. I am just following the call, I'm following the guidance to show up and speak of something that's on my heart. And it's not easy for me because, well, I'm an introvert. And I don't know about you all, but I have been going through a very challenging time in the last 3 months or so. I've had a lot of loss and grief. And so this required me to really focus in on healing and really taking care of myself, which seems to be a running theme my entire life, which on the flip side brings me into a position where I find the things that work for healing and I feel even better. And you know what? Even if I don't feel totally better emotionally or spiritually, uh, I get the call. I get the guidance, the answer to my prayers that is to show up and serve however I can. I have not been able to do fancy videos with AI effects and lots of editing and, you know, really clear, effective, worked over script writing. I'm not there yet, guys. In fact, I suck at a lot of business related skills, even though I've been studying it for quite some time. However, I'm very, very blessed and strong in a spirit, as my Rasta mentors would say. So, on the frequency level, on the cosmic level, on the consciousness level, emotional, what is even the word? Because I have been going through heartbreak. And I'm going to get to the point. So, we're going to talk about how we can really find out what's good and bad, right and wrong. And it seems weird because, right, a lot of people want to believe everything is one. There's no such thing as good and bad and right and wrong. However, if you've been paying attention and if you're part of the Great Awakening movement that is unfolding more and more every day, you will discover that, at least in this earthly realm where we have these physical bodies and we have to navigate here on this 3D situation that we all find ourselves in together, there is a path that will lead to greater consciousness and greater peace. And there's a path that leads to more confusion and more pain and suffering. And we get to make that choice day by day, moment by moment. So, let's see. Yeah. So I want to talk about how there's this missing red pill. I'm just going to come out and say things that are going to upset a lot of people. And whether it's fortunate for me or unfortunate for me, I've had to spend a ton of time by myself and resourcing myself and healing myself and just communicating directly with source consciousness. Some people call it God. Some people, I like the word Jah. Whatever your word is for creator consciousness, great spirit, I just hang out with that being as my primary companion most of the fucking time. And as a result, I have been kind of pushed into this place of not giving a fuck. And a lot of my, about your opinions is what I mean. A lot of my favorite leaders on any given topic are very courageous people who are saying things that most of the population is too afraid to say. and who receive a lot of backlash. And to be honest, in this phase that I've just been starting to emerge out of, I've just been feeling so much grief from all the fucking loss. I don't know if anyone else relates. Just passed an anniversary of a dear friend a year ago who committed suicide at a very young age. She was only 34. And passed the 1 year anniversary of my soul animal companion. Some of you may not understand how deep that goes, but that was devastating for me, and I can't believe it's been a year already. But I want to speak to those of you who are interested in awakening and who are truth seekers and who are really genuinely a part of this awakening movement. Because there's a lot of people latching on now that it's become trendy. Oh, the Great Awakening, the Great Awakening. But what does that really mean? That you have a successful podcast and you've got sponsorships and that you have popularity? Because if we look back at the most important figures in history who changed the world for the better, they were never popular. They were actually hated upon. And we can be aware of, like, say, oh, the government is a scam, the medical system is a scam, these people are lying to us, politicians lie to us, whoa, revelation. But that's all just staying in the comfort zone. And when it comes to really seeking truth, what's required of us is what we call cognitive dissonance. A lot of people know that term, but are you actually willing to go through it in your own being? So something that you've accepted as true because the society around you, it's like the soup that you're swimming in, the environment that you're in just accepts it as true. Does that mean that it's true? Just because it's repeated over and over and over again? If we look at successful propaganda campaigns, what the tactic is to repeat something loudly, repetitively, and for a long time. Over and over and over again. The lie then becomes the accepted norm, the accepted collective belief. Okay, so what I'm speaking to here is one of the core teachings that is in all spiritual, good spiritual guidance teachings. Peace. How do we create peace? Well, there's a commandment that says thou shalt not kill, right? And there's versions of that in all great religions and even non-religious paths. Usually if someone considers themselves to be spiritual or choosing to have, to discover spiritual truths, it's usually deeply connected with peace, right? Someone who presents themselves as spiritual is probably going to be someone who would prefer to resolve conflict in peaceful ways. Let me just adjust this. Some of y'all are popping in and out. I see people joining and leaving right away, and I haven't even gotten to the triggering part yet. Oh, I'm about to lose some followers. Let's go, bitches. I really just have to follow the guidance, and I will die on this hill. That if to be an awakening, self-realized, authentic person, I believe authenticity is what has replaced enlightenment, because no one really knows how to define enlightenment unless you're already there, and the enlightened ones tell us that you just carry on living your life. Chop wood, carry water before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water after enlightenment. So it's really just an internal shift from what the masters tell us. But how can we truly discern who is on a genuine awakening path and who is just wanting to fit in or get get approval from the external, from society. We can tell by how much they're willing to rock the boat. We can tell by the daily small actions that actually only they know. It's only between them and God or Source or whatever, Buddha consciousness, whatever you choose to call it. That's the true fruits of a person's seeking, right? And there's all this like rage about news stories and this and that, and like, we have to stop the genocide. And yes, yes, we agree. We all agree that we want to stop wars. We want to stop mass killing. We want to stop all the isms and all the brutality that exists in the world. So, putting that to the side, since we all agree that violence needs to be obliterated, or rather dissolved maybe, into a feeling of peace and a true experience of peace. This has been a goal of ours, of humanity's, for a very long time. If we're not able to actually save a child from trafficking or save a child from a war-torn nation directly in the flesh, then what? Then how can we promote peace on earth? And it comes down to what we're doing every single day, or rather not doing. Okay, so if you're funding, therefore demanding violence, abuse, killing, exploitation every single day, then does that mean that you are contributing to the goal of peace, or are you perpetuating violence, which is the more common path that humanity has walked for so long? Let me put it this way. Let's tune into your inner child. Say you are 3 years old and you have met a little lamb. Or let's go even smaller. Let's say it's a bunny rabbit. There's a baby bunny that you have met, and you just have befriended this bunny. Everything is great, and you're playing together, and you're loving on this bunny, and you're feeding the bunny, and you're bonded with the bunny now, because little children naturally love animals. That's a clue. And then it's mealtime. It's time to have some food. You're hungry. And one of the caregivers, one of the adults around you, hands you a bowl of strawberries. And you're hungry. You've got this rabbit in front of you, a small one. You're many, many times bigger than this rabbit. And you have a bowl of strawberries beside you. Which one do you eat, and which one do you continue to befriend? Okay, we have to sometimes break things down so simply, because it's so easy to miss from the adult egoic mind, because we have been so incredibly indoctrinated. So I just don't see enough of this in the conversation out there. We're going around a very central point, and that is that we each have the power within us to lead by example as we're walking our path, to be an embodiment of nonviolence. And what that means is we don't fill our bellies with corpses, dead bodies, the products of murder and killing. We don't pay for, aka demand, the cruel and torturous industries that require force breeding, which is a form of rape, that require babies being separated from their mothers. There's the biggest in scale genocide happening right now. And throughout history, it's been ongoing and continuous for at least a couple thousand years, or actually probably at least 5,000 years, 10,000 years, I'm not sure. But for those of you who have woken up to what's happening with the children, and I can't say on this platform because I had my entire profile deleted in 2020 for bringing awareness to that, the crimes against humanity. My entire profile was deleted because I was organizing in-person events and online events and raising awareness about the biggest crimes against humanity. However, since animals are just objectified as objects and they're not considered important and they're not considered valuable and like their lives don't matter, then I probably won't get my profile deleted for talking about them because, well, I don't have a big following. If I had a big following, there might be problems because there's a lot of profit to be made by these force breeding and killing and torturing industries. So, how would you explain? Well, let's put it this way. You see someone, right? Just a random dude. He has 3 little baby chicks, little fluffy. They're actually smaller than the palm of your hand usually. Actually, they're probably way smaller than the palm of your hand when they're born. Say he has 3 freshly hatched chicks that just hatched today. And you're watching him place 1, and then 2, and then 3 into a blender that's running. Now, do you think that person is psychopathic? Do you think that's a weird thing to do? Do you think that's not a peaceful thing to do? Do you think that's an incorrect thing to do? Do you think that it's not ethical to throw newborns into a blender? You have the answers in your heart. Those who seek shall find. And if you actually pursue the question long enough, you will come to the truth if you keep seeking it, if you keep knocking at the door and you keep investigating. And if you're willing to sit through the cognitive dissonance, because we've all been told the same thing. I've heard it a billion times also, that we need to eat meat because of protein. Protein, 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 protein. How many times do you think we've heard that word associated with animal products? What they don't teach you in school, what the government does not subsidize and sponsor, because if you look into it, the meat, dairy, and egg industries are subsidized, aka paid for, by the governments so that your price tag at the supermarket is lower for your convenience, so you can buy the products that they also paid to promote in school for the children. So, yeah, what they don't teach you is that all plants contain all the essential amino acids for all of the protein you could ever want. And even beyond that, protein is way overrated, and there's no such thing as protein deficiency with people who have access to food. Just food, any amount of food, any kind. I encourage you to look and see about protein deficiency. It only exists in people who are literally for real starving, aka they haven't had food for more than 40 days. Because you can fast for about that amount of time. So, you don't like hearing about it. You would prefer that I shut up. And I'm talking to like probably 98% of the population would prefer that I just shut up. And I've been a really nice, sweet, kind, silent vegan for a very, very, very long time. With the beautiful desserts, with the lovely food, just, okay, I won't say anything, you do you, I do me. And guess what? I'm over that. I'm over that. I've been very uncomfortable facing beliefs that were put into my mind that I needed to untangle from and get out from underneath. I've had to face changing my mind about a lot of things that I thought were correct, and I'm still doing it. I'm a student of life. I'm learning, I'm researching, I'm checking stuff out. I want to see your comments. I see that a couple of you have commented, but for some reason, the way this setup is here. Oh, okay. Hi, Maggie. Thank you so much. We feel better when we eat vegan. See, a lot of people will say this, and I totally agree, and it's 100% true if you make it through the detox phase properly and if you're doing whole foods, plant-based. However, what I came here to discuss is our spiritual alignment, our ethical alignment, and to be in alignment with the things that we say that we desire, which is peace on earth, right? We are, we, we desire, we all agree that it would be better for all of us if the wars ended, if there wasn't child labor, if there wasn't child blank blank that I can't talk about here. Find me on Telegram. We can have a more open conversation over there. We all agree that people shouldn't be abused, assaulted, violated, exploited, that slavery is wrong. We all agree these things. We have a moral compass and we have an ethical guidance system inside of our hearts and in our souls. So how can we be a living, breathing embodiment of the peace that we wish to see in the world? Screaming end, free Palestine, screaming stop all wars, and marching in the streets like, maybe you'll make new friends? That's good. How do we enact real change in the world? If our bodies are full of the products of violence, torture, rape, that's what forced breeding is, and adrenaline-filled blood and flesh from babies, animals, how are we going to be a living example of peace? And this is like, there's so many people that love to lead sound healings, that love to lead ceremonies, that love to lead discussions in, restorative justice, nonviolent communication, all these things. I've studied nonviolent communication. I think it's a great body of work. And even in the vegan movement, which, by the way, let me just pause for a second. Veganism is not a diet. I know. Most people think it is. Because the most visible part of it is that people don't eat animals and they don't eat the excretions and the things that come out of animal bodies. So that is the most visible thing to people who are not anywhere near that lifestyle. And then the people who are in it tend to talk about food most of the time because it is a big change that people make when choosing a peaceful, compassionate way of life. And so it gets misconstrued, and then the masses just think it's a diet. It's a personal dietary choice. Why don't they just shut up? Because who cares? You eat one thing, she eats another thing, he eats another thing. Why talk about it? What's the point? Just let me eat what I eat what you eat. Done. Stop talking, right? It seems to make sense if it was a diet. It's actually an essential key to living a peaceful life with the people around you that you care about, that you love, because you get to be in integrity with choosing peace and choosing solutions over just perpetuating unnecessary harm. You get to be an embodied, frequency of peace. And before you, actually, I would like to dare you to drop a comment against veganism, like an argument against veganism that you think is original, because I have heard them all many, 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 many times. But I will give you major props. I will shout you out. I will definitely make sure that you get your credit due if you can give me a comment, an argument against veganism that I have not heard before and that holds up on the ethical, moral, spiritual perspective. So, um, like for example, people will say, oh, plants feel pain, plants are conscious beings. We need to get back to the definition of words. And oh, yeah, I think I got sidetracked. So, the definition, before I get to the plant point, the definition of veganism is an ethical stance against exploitation of all animals as much as possible, whenever possible and practical. That's the goal. To avoid exploitation. It's basically boycotting violence, boycotting abuse, and taking a stand against exploitation. Choosing to not be the reason why innocent beings are being exploited and harmed and bred into existence to be killed. So we're taking ourselves out of the cycle of violence. Just like how nonviolent communication has ways, practical ways, actions that we can change in the way that we're communicating so that we're taking ourselves out of the cycle of violence. So we're not just going to fight and say, you, la, 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 and escalate the situation with more and more fighting. We're taking ourselves out of the violence so that the entire pattern changes. And so with that definition in mind, another word that is important to learn, for those of you who are brave, it's going to be maybe 2% of the entire population will even bother to look into this right now where we stand. And you're courageous, and I'm here for you. And I know there's a bunch of you that have been in my DMs over the years that are so grateful. They're so happy in their bodies. They're so at peace in their minds because I helped them to find their own inner voice and to be able to align their actions with their own inner knowing. Not me telling anyone what to do. I don't tell people what to do. I just offer evidence, facts, and proven practices that work. I'm over here thriving in my body. I started this video saying, yeah, I've had a really rough time emotionally, and I spend way too much time alone, and I have my problems. I'm a human. I have problems. However, I have hacked the code for the most part for physical thriving, and there's always a lot to learn. I'm not the be all end all. I'm not, but there are certain things that when we put into place, the body responds. And that piece of it, as exciting and delicious and as rewarding as it is, that is a secondary benefit to choosing this path of peace and compassion. This path is learning to, feel that alignment between what we know is right in here and what our actions are day by day in the world. So I hope this is making sense. I didn't plan what I was going to say. I just heard the guidance. I heard the call that I was supposed to come on here. I'm supposed to be more brave, to show up more, because I've been hiding and like an animal in a cave licking my wounds. It's been a very painful time. And I will die on this hill, though. Out of all the issues in the world that I care for, and I care for many, human rights issues included, because that's another misconception about vegans, is that we care about animals more than humans. No, incorrect. We care about humans just as much. You can care about multiple causes all at once. It's just how many of those causes, like for example, I would love it if the blood diamond trade stopped. I would love it if all those wars in all of these countries that are happening right now stopped today. How much of an effect can I have each and every single day to change those external circumstances? I would love to adopt children who don't have families, and I'm currently not in a position to do that yet. So, what I am in a position to do, though, is to choose what I consume. So, my mama taught me way back that we vote with our dollar in this capitalist society. So, a lot of you have been losing faith in the government. I think that's a great first step. A lot of you have been losing faith in the big pharma and the medical system. I think that's another great first step, or one of the primary steps. Awesome, that's great. We need to learn more natural ways of living closer to nature. That's great. But as we go deeper and deeper, and as we allow the cognitive dissonance, which is very uncomfortable, very awkward, very painful, if we allow that cognitive dissonance to arise as we keep asking the question, based on the great teachers and based on my own inner knowing and my own heart, is it okay to kill when it's not necessary? Outside of situations like starvation, survival, to survive starvation, or self-defense, there's very few cases where most humans with a heart would agree that it's okay to kill. To kill for pleasure is considered psychopathic. To kill without reason is considered unnecessary and cruel. And yet, most of you watching this and most of you living as humans today are demanding it. You're demanding the force breeding, the exploitation, the torture, the abuse of non-human animals. Humans are animals. You can look it up. We're classified biologically as animals. As you continue down your Great Awakening journey, it's commonly discussed that we get more and more telepathic abilities as we do this. So as we connect with God more, or Jesus, or source consciousness, or the great compassionate one, great spirit, Jah, the Almighty, whatever your chosen word is for this greater consciousness that exists outside of the small self, we start to be able to tune into much greater sources of information. And telepathy is something that is a natural skill that we're meant to have, and all kinds of psychic intuitive abilities. So as you get more and more aware of not just how the world works and who runs the governments and what's going on to humans that are in horrible situations, but the greater picture of the entire thing, what's going on Earth, all the earthlings, we're classified biologically as animals, and we share this Earth with other animals. The misconception, unfortunately, the commonly societally approved belief is that we're superior to all the other animals, so therefore we can do anything we want to the other animals. We can force breed them, we can imprison them, we can abuse them, we can kill them as babies. By the way, that example that I mentioned earlier about the guy with the 3 baby chicks, throwing them in the blender, and how we would all think that's psychopathic to do that if you witness that in front of you. There's tens of billions of baby chicks that are just happen to be hatched male instead of female, and they get blended alive into massive grinders, or get stuffed into plastic trash bags to slowly suffocate on top of each other. And that's just the egg industry. That's just one of the industries that most people are demanding, because there's this system in place called demand and supply. it's often misnamed as supply and demand. However, the demand comes first, and then the supply is fulfilled. So if I keep buying blood diamonds from the Congo, for example, if I keep buying those, they're going to keep forcing slave labor of children and all of the horrible things that are happening to get the diamonds. If I stop buying those diamonds, and I encourage everyone I know to stop buying those diamonds, and they encourage everyone they know to stop buying those diamonds, the demand, or rather the supply, goes down with that ripple effect. So I hope that you can see, even if you totally disagree with me, even if you think killing animals is fine, even if you think you're always going to eat meat, dairy, and eggs, and no one is ever going to change your mind, that's fine. You can think whatever you want. I hope that this helps you see, though, the demand and supply model, right? It's demand first, and then the supply gets fulfilled. When you place an order online, you've created the demand, and they're going to fulfill the supply. And we can see this with any type of product out there, any trend. You can see the demand increases, so the supply has to increase as well. If the demand decreases, the supply is going to decrease as well. So let's see. If you saw a lamb on the road, just a baby little lamb, wobbling on little legs, new and helpless, out in the streets, and someone just comes along and starts kicking it, and starts putting it into a cage and throwing it into a truck, and just treating it like an object, what does your heart say when you see that? Or do you reserve your compassion only for certain types of animals? Humans, again, we're animals, classified as animals by biology. Maybe you just only think that abusing humans is wrong and abusing animals is okay. Or maybe it's just the dogs. If you see the dogs in the Chinese market and people who eat dogs, that's barbaric, it's violent, it's horrible, we must stop it. Compassion all the way for that. Torturing cats, not okay, terrible, we must stop it. But if it's a lamb or a chick or a pig or a cow or a sheep or a goat or a turkey or a duck or a rabbit or a monkey, like where does the line, where do you draw the line? Which animals do you think it's okay to support abuse and pay for it and demand it? And which animals it's not okay? Because if we rewind and go back to how this little what do we call this? It's a live, it's a video, it's a ramble, it's a rant. What I was touching upon at the beginning is, what are the great masters teaching? Not just organized religion and what's taught in books that were written by other people, but what did the great awakened masters teach? They taught the way of peace. And how are we going to be living embodiments of peace? Again, I have to keep asking this, and I'm not going to stop asking it, so you can unfollow me now if you don't like this content. If our bellies are full of corpses and the products of pain, suffering, torture, abuse, and exploitation, how are we going to truly be a living example of peace if that's what we're demanding? And those of you watching, welcome. You can answer any of these questions at any time. If you're watching the replay, drop the word replay down below, and I really would love to hear your thoughts. The people who love to make fun of vegans and mock us, the people who think we're ridiculous, the people who think we're dying and unhealthy because of lack of protein, you're welcome to join in the conversation. Drop your favorite memes below. You can drop your thoughts. Tell me all about how crops harm animals, because the fact is that 87% of all plants grown on Earth are fed to the animals born into captivity to be exploited and killed. So please do drop your thoughts. Is any of this resonating with you? Is it not resonating with you? Is it triggering for you? Do you like it? Do you have questions? Anyone here who's catching this, have you ever been curious about the vegan lifestyle? Or maybe you've just been curious about plant-based eating. I know a lot of my shares on social media have just been about health because that's been my focus. I've had to heal myself from PTSD over and over and over again because new traumas have a way of coming, don't they? And I have found my way. I have found my way through so many things. I've healed myself of chronic physical pain. I've healed myself of debilitating heartbreaks. I'm learning how to navigate grief. I'm not sure if, on the grief one, I'm not sure if it's ever healed. That's a question that I have. Maybe some of you know. Can you heal grief? Or is it just something that you learn to live with in a way? So, yeah, I would love to see any of your comments. And basically, as I said before, this is the hill that I will die on. And it does not mean that I prioritize animals over humans. In fact, I don't see a hierarchy. See this pattern behind me? I believe this is how I see life. It's circular, it's radial, it's interconnected. There's no better than or worse than. Humans have proven themselves, the human race, we have proven ourselves to be extremely damaging to the very earth on which our life depends. Now, think about this critically. Is this a sign of high intelligence compared to the other animals? Or is this a sign, like a red flag, like a concern, like a cry for help? Is it a sign of greater intelligence and spiritual superiority, just because that we've learned how to force breed animals into captivity? Is that a highly intelligent and spiritually evolved thing to do? And then we kill them as babies because, for example, a cow will be killed at like 6 months and they could live to 30 years in a natural lifespan. A turkey is killed at like 3 months old, a baby, and it could live to be, I forget what it is with turkeys. I think it might be up to 20 years, 15, 20 years in a natural lifespan. So this is the part that is for my truthers especially. For the people who love the red pills and for the people who've gone to the depths of the rabbit holes and you have found a lot of truth. One of them is about the children. And again, I mentioned earlier, I cannot even talk about that topic because I already had my entire profile deleted in 2020 when I was raising a lot of awareness about it. But you have to fill in the blanks here. Adrenaline is something that circulates in our bodies when we're terrified. It gets concentrated into the blood. There's people who are wealth hoarders at the top of the pyramid, so to speak, and they like this fact that adrenaline in blood, some of you are following. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm sorry, sometimes I smile when it's a trauma response. Some of us learned how to be nice to escape danger, and so our faces made smiles when we were dealing with topics and situations that were extremely serious. So don't take my smiling when I'm talking about heavy topics as, don't take it the wrong way. But think about this, like I said, the animals that are killed to fulfill your demand that you're buying, small farm, big farm, factory farm, hobby farm, doesn't matter. They're still killed as babies, and they have adrenaline in their blood. And there's a certain thing, adrenaline, there's a metal called chrome, there's iron, there's brass, and there's chrome. We need to start taking this great awakening to the next level. We need to start taking it more seriously, as in taking responsibility, the ability to respond, and claiming our power to change the motherfucking world. Because look, all of our favorite leaders and teachers out there that we honor, that were made of martyrs, they were hated during their time when they were preaching peace. They were hated to the point of being killed. Jesus is a really famous example. Do you think people of his time, do you think it was popular and cool to follow him during the time that he was alive? So it's not going to be popular or cool or get you any social credit to or fit in with the cool crowd and the big podcasters if you decide to actually own your responsibility and your part, because you have God's spark, you have the will of Jah within you, made in the image and likeness of, right? And so we can create change, even if it's just however small your influence is. Your circle of influence can be one person, 4 people. You might talk to a stranger on a bench. I used to talk to homeless people when I lived in the city, and those were some of the best conversations, by the way. Really open-minded people, and usually very kind. I would love to hear some of your thoughts. 100%. Hey, Rayanne, thank you for that. Gracias. I would like to find a way to put Spanish in the subtitles, because I have a lot of connections now in Latin America since I've been living here for 4.5 years. Yo puedo hablar un poquito español también, pero estoy aprendiendo también. So, how do we expand our consciousness to actually embody this concept of the Great Awakening beyond just, oh, we figured out that governments are corrupt and big corporations are corrupt and the medical system is lying to us, mainstream news is not to be trusted. Like, all that stuff is baby kindergarten shit. I'm sorry, but it is. It's like, great, you got that out of the way. Let's move on to actual consciousness expansion and soul level evolution, and how much love and compassion can we embody. So for me, the way I like to choose my teachers and my guides and my companions and fellow travelers is by how much compassion, kindness, empathy they are able to show in the day-to-day. So when I see someone like move a caterpillar from the sidewalk to the grass so it doesn't get burned in the sun, or when I see someone looking for the owner of the lost puppy who was found on the beach, or when I see people treating the janitor with respect and warmth and kindness, these are all little clues like, hey, this person's got compassion. And compassion is a fruit of personal evolution and personal attunement. Because if you believe in God or a divine consciousness, and I don't really have much to say to those of you who are atheists, I don't know if I can help you. You gotta find that part first. If you've got some form of faith or some form of connection to a greater consciousness than just your own, then from that place you can begin to have that conversation inside your own heart about what's truly right. There's an expression called the right-hand path, and what is wrong. And I know that, like, in the New Age way of thinking, it's unpopular to even believe that there's a right and a wrong. Oh, you have your path and I have mine. You do you and I'll do me. Don't judge. And I used to be all about that. However, let me put it bluntly. Do you think it's better to kill babies regularly? Or do you think it would be better to avoid it if you could? If you could. Cue the cognitive dissonance, because we've had very expensive, I might add, campaigns. So, highly funded campaigns of propaganda for generations and generations and generations. That killing animals is totally fine because they're just here for us. They give their life, it's totally fine. Don't think about it too much because we'll keep it all behind closed doors so you don't have to look at it either. But it's always been done in history, and it's okay. Some animals are for eating, some animals are for exploiting, some animals are for riding on, for putting heavy stuff on until they break their backs. Don't think about it though. Don't question it. But the Great Awakening is supposed to be based on questions. Question everything, follow the money. Question everything and follow the money. That's like kindergarten level guidance for how to do this Great Awakening thing. And here's a question. Why would you feel okay taking your young children to a pumpkin patch or an apple orchard or a mango grove, but you wouldn't take those same young children to a slaughterhouse? Why is it, here's another question, why is it that the industries that rely on slaughterhouses to produce their products for you to consume in the store, why do those industries change laws by the power of their force and their money? They're able to influence the government so heavily that they can even change laws so that the people who take footage of what actually happens in a slaughterhouse or in a facility that houses these imprisoned animals that are raised to be killed and exploited, why is it that the people who try to get footage of the truth can be classified as terrorists and thrown in jail? There's currently people that did nothing other than film truth who are rotting in prison right now because the meat, dairy, and egg industries have made it such a high-level crime that they're just like thrown in jail with huge sentences sometimes. Yeah, those are not stories that make it to even your favorite alternative news sources, such as your favorite podcasters, your favorite independent journalists. They're not reporting on these stories because they are also demanding the products of exploitation and violence. So they haven't been looking at it either. In fact, a lot of my own favorite podcasters literally promote and are partnered with companies that promote meat, dairy, and eggs. I listen to lots of different voices. I'm open to hearing a lot of different sides of the argument. And so, first of all, I'm not judging you. Most of us were not born on a path of nonviolence or veganism. And I used to say I could never live without cheese. I'm French, so I knew like 300 kinds of cheese. And we've all been in the place of like, oh my God, vegans are too extreme. Because the thing is, we've all heard the popular way of thinking and the socially accepted way of thinking. We all know it so well. Why are vegans so angry? Why can't they shut up? Why do they have to be so extreme? Why do they care what I eat? They should just be quiet, right? Thank you. Rianne gets it. Thank you. Thank you for saying it daily. So this has been my renewed commitment is I'm going to be asking a lot of uncomfortable questions. I'm going to be delivering a lot of proven facts. And I do it all the time in comment sections, not to argue. I don't argue. I share facts for the readers, not necessarily for the people that are trying to put me down or anything like that. I stay very calm. I love everybody. I love my haters. I love people who think they're right, that it's okay to kill animals. I love them too. You know, Jesus said, forgive them for they know not what they do. And so we have to work with forgiveness a lot in this path of awakening. We have to forgive ourselves for having made heavy mistakes in the past. I'm sure if you were honest with yourself, you would realize that you've made a lot of pretty severe mistakes before. Otherwise, you just haven't had much life experience, and it's coming. Your mistakes are coming. But we also need to forgive others. And sometimes we have to make choices that differ from our previous choices in order to align with the true nature of who we really are. Now, for those of you who know me and who know my brand and what I offer, holistic health coaching and primal movement medicine, which is called Bowspring. It's a way of removing pain out of the body through movement and alignment. And I help people with how to do plant-based eating and how to incorporate proper molecular hydration for the best physical experience ever. There's a lot of things I could share about just health. But you know, if you know that part of my work, you know that my whole thing is about embodying your soul in the physical. It's a very tantric concept, and by tantric it just means you divinity and physicality are one. They're two sides of the same coin. So I aim to have my life be an experience of my soul fully occupying this physical vessel so that I can show up fully here as I am in this temporal experience so that I can share who I truly am with all of you. And if my body is in pain, if it's sick, if it's uncomfortable, if my heart is not aligned with my actions, or if my mind is full of anxiety, or if I'm full of fear, I'm not able to be the temple for the body, or be the temple for the soul is what I meant. So I'm not even fully here, right? There's a lot of people who suffer from anxiety, from depression, from just this crippling low-grade or sometimes high-grade fear. And people like to say you are what you eat. If you're eating the products that were literally brought to you through the highest levels of fear, torture, terror really, then it's not a surprise that you have fear in your body. It's a frequency, and there's a thing called frequency transfer. It is real. If you've been on this awakening journey for any time at all, you know that frequency comes first. Sound, vibration, thoughts, music, intentions, emotions. These are all frequencies. This comes first, and then it becomes physical. So, wow, it looks like I've been talking for an hour. This was meant to be 20 to 30 minutes. But as you can see, I'm very much passionate about this topic. I do believe that it's an essential key to the door that will open up the kingdom of heaven here on earth. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. That is a quote from the Master Yeshua. And he taught love and compassion. And so many other great masters also taught the exact same thing. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I would love to hear if you disagree. I would love to hear if you agree. I would love to hear if you have any insights to add to the conversation, something that I missed, something that you would like to hear me talk about next time. Any physical problems or symptoms that you're having. I'm always interested in how my people are feeling because I specialize in helping people feel congruent and aligned and happy in their bodies. And so please share your thoughts. I'm here to love on you, not to judge you. That's not my job. My job is to just do my part, play my role. And I'm just following the guidance that I get from the Almighty. And we have that connection within us, all of us. So we need to pray more, we need to meditate more, and take aligned action with the guidance that we're given. So drink lots of water, take really good care of yourself, be loving and forgiving to yourself, show some compassion to other beings in your life, whether they're human or non-human. Show some compassion, show some empathy. See if you can help in little ways. Share some funny memes, share some funny videos, try to cheer up some people around you, and drop some truth bombs whenever you can. Stand up for the victims whenever you can. Aqua Miski says, we are all equal and have the same right to live. Respect and love are the nourishment of our consciousness. Wow, well said. Excellent note to leave this on. Sending you so much love. See you next time.